Hello, and welcome back to Tommy's Top Picks Weekly Roundup Podcast, Episode 16. I'm your host, Tommy, joined by John.
How's it going?
Good. It's been a good week. How was your week?
Good. Got to play some games. You missed out this week.
I know. I had family obligations. I got out of some of them. That's why I'm able to be here right now. But I was not able to get out of all of them. Got to give family some time.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and especially, a lot of people celebrate Easter weekend. So,
so if you do,
time to do that stuff.
Happy Easter.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so happy Easter, everyone. And if you're listening to us, I hope it's because you have free time and not because you're avoiding your family.
Or you're just listening to this on Monday. And in that case, I hope you had an excellent Easter.
Oh, no. I can't.
Okay.
All right.
So, we do have another big giveaway coming up when we hit 200 subs. If you take a look at our comic videos, and especially the weekly top 5 picks that we do, have started doing again. And so if you put your favorite comic that came out that week, it enters you into the giveaway. When we hit 200 subs, we are going to be giving away this very nice 9.8 King in Black premiere variant cover signed by Donnie Cates and Ryan Stegman. There are not many entries in it yet, so make sure you subscribe so you're valid for the giveaway, and then you comment, and then you have as of now, you have a very good chance of winning this. And yeah, so why wouldn't you?
I'll be honest. I wish I could sign up.
It's super cool.
I can make some fake accounts, right? For PO box, I can do something like that, right?
I mean, Donnie Cates and Ryan Stegman are two giant heavy hitters, and they are going to explode in the next couple of years with all their They partnered and they're working on a independent comic book group called KLC, where they are going to be starting to put out their own independent books. Basically, this monster creative team from Marvel are now going to be putting out books under the Image, but their own titles and their own creative stuff. So definitely something and this is really where they got their thing going.
That's cool. So I have a bit of homework for you then, because this is intriguing to me, and I'm sure some of our listeners who are just getting into the comic book stuff would probably have a similar ask. Do a podcast or episode where it's just kind of a lay of the land, talk about the industry, who the players are, who the, like you were just talking about, like the various publishing houses, etc., and where the artist, story, writers, etc., all are, and kind of maybe a little history of how it got there.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
You know that stuff, and you know it like the back of your hand.
I could just drop it.
Yeah, exactly. But someone new to it, is completely overwhelmed because it's a vast market. There's a lot going on, and constant changes, and not knowing the background, changes the way you look at things. So,
if you think trying to stay up to date on TCGs is difficult,
no, I can't imagine. Yeah, exactly.
Keeping up with the comic book industry.
So help a newbie out.
I will, and we actually put out our first video to help those newbies out. Murphy and I put out a video called how to start reading and collecting comic books. So you can go back and watch that. That is out on the channel currently. We walk you through all the different steps, from finding your comic book store to how to order them, how to figure out what's coming out every week, how to organize them, how to, once you have them, how to catalog them, keep a track of what you have, what you don't have, all that stuff. So basically walking from the interest of comics to how to organize the comics that you then have. So awesome. I think it's a good one.
It's good info, and looking forward to more content on that. That's not this week's topic.
No, this is a Flesh and Blood podcast.
Well, not always, but today it is.
Yeah, today's episode is a Flesh and Blood podcast. But first, what kind of games did you play this week?
So I got lucky. I got to play a little bit of Blitz, and I got to play a little bit of Draft. We did an arcane draft at the shop, and then yesterday there was a Blitz game that actually went really well. There were 6 players and 6 different heroes.
That's always fun.
I got to face off as Kano against Icelander. I lost, but it was one of our better players, so I didn't feel bad about it at all. Very, very cool matchup though, because I've never had the chance to sit on the other side of an Icelander. You know, I've
It's
dealt
not fun.
the ice. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not
It
fun.
was, and as a wizard, it's even weirder because you're
Yeah,
used to going on their turn,
right.
but they have these tricks to ice you out, so it's not worth going on their turn. So then you're shooting into their full hand. It is Icelander is a very good counter to Kano. So, anyways, there's quite a few good
That's
games. Had a
interesting. I
lot of
never really thought
fun.
about that matchup.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Heart of Ice. Automatically, anything anyone does, one extra
Yeah, why
on
wouldn't? Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. You play Heart of Ice. Yeah,
every turn because it just cuts down a wizard like that.
gross.
Anyways, but yeah, so I had to got to do that, and that was a lot of fun. And the draft was really good too.
Hmm.
I didn't win either of them. The draft, I was in the lower half, and then the blitz, I actually completely lost. I lost every game, which is fine. It was my first time taking Kano out in
Hmm.
physical form. I'd only ever played it felt table really,
Hmm.
and I guess against you that one time.
Right.
So I'm still learning the ropes, but it was good to play
Seems difficult.
face off against a bunch of different heroes that I'd never fought against before. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I feel like Kano's one of those heroes that like once you put in the time, he can be really deadly. But
Yeah,
it's a grind to get to
you do have
proficient.
to. You got to get practice in
Yeah.
because it's a tricksy deck. It's not a straightforward. It's not like one plan. You
No.
can't. It's not like block everything, swing hammer until combo. Right, like
Right.
that. That algorithm for Kano is not that simple. You have to know when to act, when to hold back, when to blow a spell to defend, and
Right. And
it's
for
a tricky
each different
balance.
kind of configuration of hand that you got. So.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And then how to mitigate the randomness, right? Because that's a factor too.
Right.
Because you have to play off the top of your deck, but the randomness can kill you if you draw
Absolutely.
wrong. So, anyways, it was fun. I enjoyed it. I like Kano. I'm having a lot of fun with it.
Cool.
I look forward to Valcor set when he becomes overpowered and I can play him in CC.
One day.
Someday. Yeah, someday.
I did not play any Flesh and Blood this week, but I did get a chance to play some MetaZoo, which was super fun. So I am introducing a friend of mine to the game, who is then introducing a friend of his to the game. So we may have 2 new MetaZoo players, which is super exciting. Not that there are any stores around us that are currently holding events, but that is another thing.
And, well, they can jump in our Discord and
play
with us either via camera or Tabletop Simulator.
Mm-hmm. But so we ripped open 2 of the Wilderness release event decks, and I had not had time to really dive in and see what they were, so it was just going in blind, and I realized that they are dual decks. So they have dual elements. The one I was playing was Cosmic and Light, and the one my friend was playing was Fire and Earth, I believe. No. Shoot, what was it? It was Earth and something. He only really played the Earth cards. But anyways, it was really fun. The best way to learn MetaZoo is absolutely to play it, because he was reading the rule book, trying to read it front to back, and it's that you learn so much faster just by
until you play. And it's not that confusing when you play.
Right. And he does know how to play Magic, so it is very similar in a lot of aspects, but there are obviously key differences.
Yeah, for sure. It's like, the way I look at it is like fast paced or lightweight Magic.
Right.
That's how I think about it.
With goofy rules.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's been fun.
Cool.
Yeah. And then, so I guess, do you want to just hop into our main topic?
Yeah, let's do it.
So our main topic is the future of Flesh and Blood. We have had some time to absorb the new 2.0 announcement rules changes. Not rule changes, but just changes to how the game is going to be released. And I think we have some more thoughts now that we've had some time to reflect on it.
Well, yeah, and we've seen other people's responses, so we can think about how the market is taking it, how the other big personalities are taking it in the space, and then Team Covenant had their podcast with James White, which was pretty interesting and also added some flavor.
Sure.
If you haven't seen that, you should go check it out. It's only on their podcast; it's not on their YouTube channel. Do you remember what that site is like? Team Covcast or something like that. I can't remember. If you search for it, you'll find it.
Yeah, just search Team Covenant podcast. It'll pop up.
But yeah, it was interesting to hear James White talk about it. But I guess let's first respond to what we thought of, I guess, 2.0, or any new thoughts or insights you have. I mean, we already talked about it once.
Right.
But what are your thoughts? How has your idea of it changed over the week?
So the more I was very excited about the history packs just because of the potential growth it has for the game, because I think one of the big barrier to entry issues for the growth of the game is sticker shock. Like the amount of players that are very drawn into the game, interested in the game, and then look at the prices of cards and they're like, this is not for me. So obviously the history packs are there to change that, and I'm very excited about that aspect because it will bring new players in. But I feel like that will only be a wave of new players, because every time they mention history packs, they say it's going to be a smaller print size. Because they said the white border cards in the history packs are going to be a smaller print run than usual, and they're only releasing them one time, and so that's great for this one wave of players. But what about the wave of players wanting to hop in 2023?
Did they actually say that? Because I did not gather that.
That's what I heard. That's what I was told.
Yeah, I'm now, granted, I don't think anyone knows for sure because it hasn't been said officially anywhere. But my guess is that these stay on shelves long term.
I hope so.
That's what my thought is. Now,
I think these should be printed into oblivion.
Very wrong. Well, yeah, I think these are if this is meant to help welcome people to the game, right? In lieu of WTR being on the shelves and ARC being on the shelves, right? And Crew, because those are eventually going to dwindle and disappear,
right?
And in some places they never got it, such as Europe, right?
Right.
Then this needs to be somewhat like the Blitz decks, which are, I don't know if you've noticed, but they're always available. They're just infinitely there, never sold out. You can buy them at any shop that carries them. You can buy them online for basically their initial price, aside from the ones that are completely out of print from the first set.
Right.
So, I mean, that's how I was looking at this product. And if it's doing that, then I don't think it's going to be a problem. Now, there is a whole inventory management component, right? Because okay, so you have history set 1. Say it's 5 years from now,
right?
You have history set 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You know what I'm saying? Because it is a perpetual card pool,
right?
And so, how as a small shop do I put 5 different history packs on there? I don't think you can, but Command and Conquer is still going to be, in demand. Spring Tunic's still going to be in demand.
But I guess in like 5 years, they could be reprinted in other sets as well.
That's true. Or was obviated with something that's better,
Right.
That's possible. I don't know. I was under the impression. Now, I did hear that they were going to be limited in how they distributed it.
It should just be to LGSs.
Yeah, I just don't think the concept was that it would be a very low print run. I think that was people misconstruing some things.
I hope so.
Yeah, because I could be wrong. Like I said, that's how I heard it. I don't know if that's true though. So I'm curious to see if it's a very short run on these, then it won't really serve the purpose.
Right. That's my confusion, is them basically being like, here's the solution to the problem, and then basically explaining a temporary solution.
Yeah, it's very much a tiny Band-Aid on a problem that doesn't really exist. I mean, see, this is the thing that's weird.
It's preventative maintenance. Maintenance.
Yeah, but people complain that card prices are too high, yet people also, at the same time, the same people will complain that unlimited is worthless. And it's like those two things are not, like, you can't have both of those things.
I want my
Either
cards to be
unlimited is
valuable, and I
not
want the cards
worthless.
I don't have to be not valuable.
Yeah, like this it's ridiculous. That's not how card
No,
game. If you want
no.
that, go play Dominion where you get all the cards in the box of the game.
Right.
It's not a there's no lottery, there's no collectability. It's just a game that uses cards, right? Like
Right.
that's the way you play that. If you want a game that has collectability, there has to be variance and availability. It doesn't work otherwise.
Right. I agree.
So, I mean, I don't know. For me, I look at this, I think this is a it's again, I think if it is like the Blitz decks where they're essentially always there, just kind of sitting there for a new player, makes total sense. 2 years from now, when there's no art crew or WTR on the shelves, although there's so many WTR, maybe they'll still be on the shelves.
Probably.
Then
they'll be $90.
This is the key product to get a hold of those old school, cards.
Right.
If it's anything less than that, then I don't really know what they're achieving other than launching in Europe, that's cool because they never had the first sets.
Right. It would be like get it around the world kind of a.
Yeah, but I mean, unlimited is worth is very very dirt cheap. So having these back out there doesn't. I don't know that it solves anything really.
Especially the timing of it because it's coming May 6th.
Yeah, it's coming right now. So this is why I'm like, I don't really see the market is way down. If people are concerned about prices of cards right now, I got news for you. It's more expensive to play a competitive MetaZoo deck.
Is it? Than Flesh and Blood?
Yes.
Yes,
you can play a top tier Flesh and Blood deck and only have the cheapest versions of the expensive cards, a couple $100, maybe $500 or $600. You know how much it costs to play the really good cards in MetaZoo? It's expensive.
Is it?
Yes. The first edition, like the CN2 versions of various things, they're still up there. It's just a playable card. I don't know, man. I don't see this as an expensive game, and it's dirt cheap compared to Magic. So trying to cut the
like
prices
Commander,
on this, I just don't get it. I don't understand it. I'm not sure who's being served by this idea that the cards should be worth absolutely nothing. Because honestly, if you want that, go play Magic. The cards are worth absolutely nothing after in the modern sets.
Right.
After launch. That's why everyone ran away from Magic so fast, because they were printing everything a million times. And it's like, oh, there's literally zero collectability in any of these cards.
Right.
So I don't know. We'll see. I did find it funny in the interview, or I guess it was in Rudy's video. He's like, he said that James White has told him many times that he thinks white border cards are the ugliest thing in the world, and he hates them. And so Rudy's like, why the heck did you do it then? He's like, because I want people to have access to the cards without hurting the collectors. I'm like, that seems reasonable.
Yeah, I mean it is, and it's fine. So, okay, so maybe here's where the confusion's happening then. Because I'm looking at the announcement again. And it says the first wave of history packs will release in English on May 16th. So they are going to do waves.
Yeah, that's why I was thinking this would be like Blitz decks. Like, once this is out, they'll release another wave.
So maybe what we were hearing, or what I was hearing, was the first wave is going to be shorter or small.
Oh, that might be so. And that would be good because, like I said, the market's kind of already flooded.
And doesn't need it,
Yeah. That might be. Yeah. Like I said, there's a lot of stuff happening all at once, so it's not hard to get little details like that mixed up and come to the wrong conclusion based on, mishearing something or whatever. And everyone's talking and, you hear something from someone and then you repeat it without thinking about it and realize that actually they misinterpret it. It becomes that whisper down the lane thing.
Yeah.
So who knows? I mean, again, until we have official, here's the print run, here's the amount people are buying, here's, we're not going to know.
No.
Point being, these cards are more available. The prices on these cards will go down. You can get white border. Several of the people at our shop are super freaking excited to get white border cards. I do not understand it. I don't get it at all, but they are 100% in on this product. They're like, I can't wait to buy. I was like, what? Okay, if you want. I don't get it. But they are not alone. There are other people out in the world that really like white border cards. So
yeah.
I think some of them look bad. I think some of them could look good. I think when Prism finally gets her white border, those could actually look pretty good.
Right, but
I
those
think
aren't
that
coming until 2024.
yeah, that's the other thing.
But I guess
I,
so. What is that? That's Tails, Arya, and Monarch.
and then
Or no, no, no.
no.
Tails,
It'll
Everfest, and
probably be
Monarch.
if it's every 2 years. Don't you think Uprising would be in there as well?
But they're groups of 3 sets. The first one's a group
No,
of 3.
no. The first one is. That doesn't mean. And if it's every 2 years, they'd fall behind very quickly.
Right. That's what.
So it would probably be all of the sets in
And
those
Uprising.
2 years.
Yeah. Okay.
And then whatever.
But then that card pull would be ginormous.
Well, depends, and maybe that means they cut some of the commons out, so the packs are more Majestics, and you know what I'm saying?
Right.
I mean, think about how many Majestics were in Everfest alone.
Yeah, exactly.
So that would be a better product than if it's like mostly the Majestic stuff. That's what I was hoping it was, if you recall. I was like, rare should be the
there's enough
common of the pack. Yeah, exactly. No one needs commons. Like you're not helping any market by dumping commons.
And they're not draftable, so that's why I think they should just be like a couple cards in a pack and a higher chance of rarity.
Yeah, just like
if the purpose is to get those cards into the hands, then why are we making a bunch of cards that they already have?
Yeah, that's just chaff. Yeah. I mean, granted, again, this is a filler for if you don't like. I think the original design was not U.S. market; it was Europe that didn't get the first sets.
Right.
In which case those commons are needed, right? Because you got to remember this is in 5 languages, including English, so 4 other languages.
Right.
This with the commons in places that never got the initial product makes 100% sense. You can essentially bypass the literal useless cards for everything that is currently in demand and used.
Right.
And you get it. You cover 3 sets with 1 box.
Right.
I think that's a win as a new entrant player. Like I could buy a $140 box, get a spread across the sets instead of buying 4 of every set, which is what I ended up doing. Which at future prices is going to be insanely hard to do.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I think going forward, it's great. I think right now, a little bit of a miss on the U.S. market, assuming it is everything we're assuming here.
Yeah, but I mean, not every product has to be 4.
Yeah, and the thing that James White said, he said, honestly, this is to target the LGSs that haven't been in.
Yeah, as he was saying there's like a new shop coming on every day.
Yeah.
And they need these cards.
Yeah, so that makes sense too, because think about it, you can't get ARC from distribution, period.
Right.
So any LGS that picks up Fab this year, they will never have had ARC, and they will never have ARC.
Right.
So this is how you get the cards,
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
That makes sense. It doesn't make sense for current, well-established LGSs that have been doing this for a while. Again, I think it's a new market kind of entry point. I don't know that it's supposed to be anything other than that. Clearly, people are interpreting it as other things, including market things and weirdos that like white borders. But it is what it is. I think
I can't wait for the first person to play a white card against you. It's like, are you going to be able to not say something?
That's a good question. When you say that, my initial response was I'd just be like, like choke up over their card just immediately. Yeah, it'll probably be someone from our shop too.
Yep. Yeah, it will be.
Anyways, all right. Other topics. Let's move on from
retiring first edition. So just kind of tagging along with this. So I guess I'm confused and we don't really know. Like they are merging. So they're merging Unlimited and first edition into the same box.
Yep.
Essentially.
Yep.
And then, but at the same time, creating this new product that kind of replaces multiple Unlimiteds at the same time.
What do you mean? Oh,
like the history packs.
Yeah. Yep.
And so what do the print numbers, like how much Unlimited is really sold and out there? And how is this going to affect the one version of the box now that we don't have Unlimited? Because there were people that were waiting for Unlimited. So I think the print runs are going to be much larger.
Maybe not. Because remember, part of the problem is that we have too many things, right?
Right.
too many things on market, so the prices are all super low. So I don't know, and we will have to see how the math plays out going into it. But if you think about Monarch, which was pre goofiness, right? When they decided the print run on that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was before any of the goofiness happened. They were just basing it on current growth, and they put in, was it 125,000 boxes
Yeah,
of
so 3 times
first
Crucible.
edition
Yeah.
only.
Yeah.
And Unlimited was intended to have more than first.
Yeah,
Now
because a
he
lot of
did
shops have to
say,
buy 2 boxes of Unlimited for every 1 box, but I don't
yeah,
think that was Monarch.
well,
Because a lot
exactly.
of
And
shops
he
didn't
he
even get
did
1 box of
say
Monarch.
part of what happened then was the demand to get the cards in people's hands had exploded, which we knew around Crew. That's when it exploded, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you couldn't wait for Unlimited release for that to satiate that demand because people were getting pissed they couldn't get the cards, right?
Right.
So I get it. Like initially, it was supposed to be like a small burst, and then Unlimited just happens forever for everyone else. But the game got so hyped that everyone wanted day one, and
Right.
it created this huge market imbalance and issue, which then, of course, your Channel Five balls and whatever took advantage of. But um, I think going forward, it's going to be large print runs so that people can get the cards because they do clearly always want it on day one. I mean, we
Yeah.
saw with even Everfest, which is probably the coldest release. Maybe Tails was, but I feel like Tails had hype around it too because it
It
was
did.
still
Yeah.
just kind of new and interesting, right? Um, but like the market had already cooled by the time Everfest came out, and it was still like people didn't get them for weeks after because of the demand. Granted, some of that was snow in the U.S. at
Right.
least,
Right.
but the point being that there was so little available on day one versus a slight disruption of weather and such that half of the country wasn't able to get them. Right.
Right. Right.
So, granted, prices have come down since, but that's the typical cycle. This is the part I don't understand. Like, who isn't looking at the data? And I'm a little sad that Rudy isn't, and maybe he's just hurt over Monarch. But if his, which I get, I mean, he
Yeah.
put
Oh,
real
yeah.
money in it. He backstopped it even. Like
Yeah.
that's real faith, and he got burned.
Yep.
And it would have taken nothing for James White, who clearly communicates to him, to just say, "Hey, don't do that." Like
Right. Yeah.
he could have given him a friendly warning, and he didn't. So I can understand Rudy being a little miffed about it, but he knows card dynamics, he knows card markets, and it's a very normal cycle, right? You get the hype bubble, right?
Sure.
Release and post release excitement, card shuffling, boxes cracked, market gets flooded with stuff. But in those first few weeks, when no one can get the hot card, the demand for it is just out of control. Prices are out of control, especially on the individual cards.
Right.
And then you have the dip, the post hype dip, which happens 100% of sets. Go to every Magic set for the past 10 years. I did the data analysis on. They essentially follow the same curve with a few exceptions where there's been disruptions or changes in the way things go. And they have this bump and then decrease and then slow decline and then essentially what I call the boredom phase, where people are tired, bored, don't give a crap about the set anymore, and that's your time to strike for buying sealed because it is literally at its lowest demand point. Pokemon does the same thing.
Yeah.
And then it slow climbs up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Again, there's variances and exceptions, but that is a normal release cycle. So I think that is what we're going to see going forward. And
Which would be awesome and
frankly,
healthy for the game.
I think that's what we're still seeing with Everfest. Like people are like, "Oh, Everfest is in the dumps. It's going to be worth $50 once the map goes off and all this stuff." And I'm like, maybe, or maybe the supply will slowly run out. I mean, I don't know that the print run is on it, but I think people are a little too hyperbolic and not studying basic history of card game releases. I mean, this stuff follows a pattern.
Sure.
I don't see why Flesh and Blood is any different, and anyone who thinks it is, I don't know. They better have some very good reasons, because that's like really pushing the bounds of realism.
The only thing I could think of is it's new, it's trying to be different, and the amount of changes that they've had to do.
There have been a lot of changes, and that does weigh into volatility. You're right.
So this Fab 2.0 announcement and getting rid of the Unlimited and this whole new restructuring kind of sets us back to square one. Now, there are definitely data points that we can take, but there's a lot of question marks with the demand for these boxes.
Yeah,
like
I
the
mean,
uprising
and of course
boxes.
the print run too, because if they
Right.
do end up doing 500,000 boxes for every new run,
Right.
and I don't know what the unlimited versus first edition kind of ratio is in these more modern sets, but I could see something like that being a realistic number if you combine them both.
Yeah.
So is that what they're doing going forward? I don't know. I don't know. And then the chase cards become even rarer, but how many are there in a total population? You know, because that will matter for the collectors.
Right. And then how many? So the people that just rip boxes and sell singles, are they going to be opening the same amount? Are they going to be opening more? Probably
My
more.
guess, from what I'm seeing around, now granted, this is just post announcement, pre hype for the new set, um, is that people will not be doing that.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's my and I'll tell you, my gut is I also won't be doing that.
I don't
I
think it's worth it.
Yeah, I'd rather just wait till the market gets cold foils and then I'll buy the cold foils I want and have my collection.
Right.
Because
Let someone
buying
else do it.
singles
Yeah.
will be cheaper. But when everyone agrees that that's what they're going to do, guess what
Right.
happened?
They get it more expensive.
The singles become ridiculous because there are none on the market.
And then that drives box prices up.
Yeah, which then, well, actually, it depends. If the EV inverts, then what happens is boxes get opened
Right. Yeah,
like
exactly.
crazy. So I don't know. I think ultimately, and again, this is coming off the news.
It's going to be
This
really
isn't
interesting.
reality.
No.
I think what's going to happen is the new set's going to be fire. The
Mm-hmm.
collectibles are going to be amazing. I mean, this set was really good. They did a lot of good stuff with this set. I think generally, overall, people were pretty excited about this set going into it and post release. I know some people were kind of naysaying the baubles or whatever, which is, fine. I get it. Or not baubles, whatever. You know, I'm talking about the trinkets. But, they're going the opposite direction. So if they were naysaying that, are they going to be hyped about the other, or are they just constant naysayers? I'm guessing they're mostly just constant naysayers.
Yeah, probably.
It's like, it doesn't matter what they say. I can come up with a reason that it's horrible. It's like, yeah, it's pretty easy. Anyone can do that.
I mean, also, and then they gave the collectors the Marvel rarity.
But, yeah. Marvel rarity, limited cold foils. Mm-hmm. Legendary is a little more common, right? So that's fun. That actually, I wonder. Yeah, we'll have to see. We'll have to see what the ratios are in the boxes and how they actually look at the end of the day. But having that be more common, so it'd be a little bit better chance than one a case for the legendaries, rainbow foil or cold foil.
I think it should be. I think, it should almost be guaranteed.
That's what
for
the math
case.
is. They basically, that's what the math is. They gave us the numbers.
Yeah, it's 1 per 80 packs for rainbow.
Yeah, so, and then a legendary 1 per 120 or whatever it is, right? So combine those two together, you're
legendary cold foil.
Legendary. Yeah,
is 1 in 220 packs.
There it is. Whatever. The point is that's an extra, right?
Yeah.
So you combine the two, and what ends up happening is you get slightly more than 1 per case.
Right.
Which means occasionally you're going to get 2 a case, and one of those will be a cold foil.
That would be cool.
And that's a major hit. Like, that's a major hit.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of pushes people, and this is where it's like, it depends on what the art is, the set, the reasoning, the classes, right? Because we saw that with Tales of Aria. If the classes in this next set are not, people aren't hyped for them, it's going to be a hard time selling them.
Yeah.
It's going to be classes. It's a draftable set, so there's going to be 3 or 4 classes.
Yeah, I hope it's 4, and I hope they give some love to some classes. James White did hint that we are going to see some classes that haven't gotten love in a while. And that is, and he also, in the Team Covenant, he was, so that's why I'm thinking there might be a ninja, but I'm not sure. And also he spilled that Azalea was not originally supposed to be in Arcane, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, but the character, probably the one that's been there since the beginning.
Yeah.
Didn't fit well with the draft experience.
Right.
So, yeah, I'm curious to see what it is. I will put my money on Metrics in the pits, and Azalea, maybe a Brute. I think Brute could be a pit reasonable thing. And then
Mech.
Mechanologist, obviously, and then who else? I you almost have to have an illusionist.
Yeah, I know. That's the other thing. Like if
Like, because otherwise we're going to have a lot of illusionist cards that are not available going forward, because I don't think Prism's going to take long to living legend
no.
after this with all the events and stuff going on. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll have to see.
Yeah.
All right. What else? Is there anything further from James White that got you excited?
Not really. Oh, the PvE stuff. Yeah. Okay. So this is what got me excited about the how seriously they are taking the PvE stuff. They aren't just doing it to appease a demographic that's looking for this type of thing, but they are making it their they've called it their flagship social product.
Yeah. Well, and I think if you paid close attention or watched old material is really what it boils down to. It is clear that they were taking it seriously for a long time.
Yeah.
Because it was originally demoed at a side table by LSS
right.
at the first calling, I think, or the second calling,
yeah.
something like that. Auckland, maybe? I can't remember. It was something like that. And several people reported playing it and thought it was fun. It was very simplistic. It was nothing like what they're describing now.
Right.
And the fact that they've been developing it this whole time, and it's getting to this point where it's like, okay, we're going to do this thing, and it's going to be like kind of epic. It sounds like that. They've really given a lot of attention to this. Now, I will say, what does that mean? We don't know. You know, how many people work at LSS? How many people split their time between different projects, different products?
That's okay. I'm saying this now, not to divert us off, but we need to talk about it. The scalability of LSS.
Yeah, for sure. Which is this is a business 101 thing.
Yeah.
Which it is very often a fail point. Like, let's be clear. I work with startups every day. This is where it gets hard. This is one of the things as an investor, you have to look at the company, the team, the resources, the technology, the basis of how they're doing things and say, can they scale? And we can get into that in a second. But it's a very important question. And the future of LSS and Fab, hinges on it. Period. Yeah. Always does. Scaling is always the big challenge.
But so, did you notice in the interview with James White when he was talking about PvE, when he said, I forget what the question was, but basically he fumbled and he said, most of the cards will be playable.
Yeah, I did hear that.
And so basically there is going to be like a PvE product with exclusive cards.
PvE cards, yeah. Which I'm guessing. So here's the thing. This is how I would interpret that now. I take it with a grain of salt because we don't have the information he has.
Mm-hmm.
I think he said all the cards are playable in PvE or vice versa, PvE to PvP or whatever. And then he stopped and said, no, most, right?
Yeah,
and the way I would see a mind going there, and this is just kind of like reading between the lines on a person's mental track, is the heroes are all the heroes and their cards are interchangeable.
Mm-hmm.
But there's probably a deck that has to do with the encounter.
Oh, yeah, right.
Right. And so he said, oh, yeah, they're totally. And then he's like, oh, wait, there's this whole other deck that absolutely is not. And so I better say that correctly before everyone.
Right. So, like, the boss deck is,
Yeah.
Because obviously it's overpowered because it's taking on 4.
Yeah. Or a dungeon or something. Yeah. There's going to be something like that, or maybe even modifiers. Maybe there's even like special, PvE equipment, right? Yeah. That would be cool too. Right. And I could see where it's like, it's in general, yes, they are interchangeable, but there are there are exceptions. So that's what I hope it is. I think that's fine. I'm fine with that. Especially if it's stuff that's cool flavor, like really epic gear that would just totally break PvP.
Sure. Yeah. No, I think it
would be great to fight dragons and demons with,
I think it'd be really cool if they had like a PvE booster box where, like, how they have the different, like, it'd be set up differently. So how there's the different pack art.
Mm-hmm.
You have different pack art, and those, depending on the pack art, that's a pack for that class. And then so you buy like the Blitz deck, right?
Mhm.
The PvE Blitz deck for Guardians, let's say. And then you crack open, then you beat the first dungeon with your team. And then you open up the treasure chest, and so you get to open up a Guardian pack. And then now you get to use those cards or equipment moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, I hope there is something like that. So there's a couple different ways. I hope you start with Commoner.
Yeah,
That's your beginning
that'd
deck,
be cool.
not Blitz, just
Right.
Commoner. Like very bare bones, very basic.
Well, no. I
Maybe,
just meant like there would be PvE starter Blitz decks.
yeah. I get
Yeah.
you. I get you. I'm just saying that's how I hope it starts. You start with Commoner, and
Yeah.
then over time, I was talking to one of our fellows at the shop, and he said this idea. I was like, that's brilliant. I love that. And then as you progress, like you don't just replace your equipment, you replace your cards.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the equivalent of your power leveling up, right?
Absolutely.
Your character leveling up.
Yeah.
So you slowly get into rares and mythics and then legendaries, and like that is so cool. Just the idea around that is so freaking cool. I cannot wait to play this. And
No,
I know people that are definitely going to play this with me.
Yeah.
It's going to be so fun.
I'm really hungry for more information on that.
Yeah,
but I
so
do want them to do it right. I want them to take their time, and I want it to.
Oh, absolutely! Yeah. Don't rush this out. Make it a fun thing with lots of lore and lots of like open-ended freedom to explore and have fun with for casual people.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that would be a lot of fun, and they are doing more of that. He let drop in that interview that Tales of Aria has a book of the Tales of Aria.
That's why it was called the Tales.
Yeah, that they didn't get around to releasing.
Right.
There's a whole lore book that was being worked on that they just didn't have the cycles to finish because they're a card game developer, not a fiction writing, shop.
Right.
And the fact that they clearly are announcing there's going to be more world building and storytelling and character development across multiple products means I hope they're hiring people and focusing people in on that, which I think that's where you get the love, in my opinion. Because I'll tell you, one of the things that I know I'm probably a rare type in this, but one of the things that makes me excited for different Magic stuff is the throwbacks. I mean, Kamigawa is a good example of that. Clearly, it got hyped up, right? Because of the old sets. Brothers War is referencing the lore that was on the back of the box that as a kid walking through the mall and seeing this game for the first time, that's what I read, and that's what drew me into the game.
Right.
This story about Ice Age and the post-apocalypse of, this Brothers War. Like, those types of things can create the seeds of future nostalgia, right?
Absolutely.
And they draw people in at such a deep, like, emotional level that it's just always going to be part of them, whether they end up leaving the game later or not, right? And that's where it's at in my mind. I mean, yes, mechanics, crunchiness, competitiveness absolutely has their own value and beauty in it. And he actually talked a little bit about that, which I thought was interesting. The travel the world and play the game thing concept.
Yeah. I mean, that's what
beautiful.
He did.
I've never heard of that. Yeah, but that's beautiful. He's like, you get to see the world in different places, different people, and how they live, and experience this, smells and sounds and foods and whatever.
But have the commonality of playing this game. Yeah,
that is fantastically beautiful. I love that. That's a huge part of this game. But for me, it's like this lore stuff is a huge part of these games too. It really draws you in.
Yeah.
And you see it with like the World of Warcraft, people that grew up playing that, right? That story is
and reading the books,
in them forever.
It's part like you read the book to get excited for the new expansion.
Yeah. So
because the book would come out like a month before the expansion, and then you would have all the story leading up. So once you logged in, you knew what was going on. Opposed to the people that didn't read the book, who were just like, "All right, time to go turn in this quest and kill these things, and turn in that quest and kill these things." And it gave the game a different feeling for those who had the lore.
Yeah.
Now, not everyone wants the lore or cares, and that's perfectly fine.
No. Yeah,
but it's just a way to further become immersed into the game.
Yeah, especially if you're trying to open up a casual side of it. That's another way to get casual, because
absolutely
you can be an expert in lore and the story and the storytelling components versus the mechanics and how to maximize your turn,
Right.
which is a different way for people to nerd out, which is a way for them to connect and be part of the community, right? I love that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting though. One thing he did say that I think bears repeating, because I don't think people realize it. A lot of Tales of Aria and I guess Everfest, and even I guess the Tale of Monarch, was very disrupted by COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't think about it because COVID had been going on for so long by that point, for us humans, normal. But for a company, they were working on these products a year to 2 years before that, right? So
Right.
all that stuff hit and disrupted the heck out of their ability to balance, produce, play test. Remember in the beginning of the pandemic, people were like figuring out how to play card games over the internet.
Right.
It wasn't something that was easy. So imagine being a playtest team that can't get together for COVID. Yeah, of course, things like was it Ball Lightning gets through.
Yeah. So
Which,
yeah,
by the
and
way,
I don't
everyone,
know.
Ball Lightning is not banned in Commoner. Get your Lightning decks in now before they ban it.
Is it common? I thought it was rare.
It is a common. We looked it up yesterday in our Discord. We were talking about it. They're like, wait, is Ball Lightning banned in Commoner? And they have a ban page. It's up now for Commoner, and it's not listed. There's nothing. I was like, I feel like this was an oversight. They just didn't think about the fact that Ball Lightning was common, because that's going to destroy Commoner format if they don't ban it. It's so powerful.
I don't know. I guess I understand, but also it sounds just like I'm making excuses for why these things got through.
Pandemic?
Yeah.
No, come on.
I don't
They're
know.
Human. They're not perfect.
Yes, no, and I get that.
What did you do perfectly during the pandemic? I guarantee you made mistakes and had issues. Everyone
absolutely.
did. Like, come on, be human.
Yeah.
They're human too.
Right.
They're allowed to screw up some things.
Right. They're allowed to. Yeah, and they're allowed to screw up even if there isn't a pandemic.
Yeah.
Right.
So what's the problem? Like, I don't think it's an excuse. I think they got jacked up by it, because remember, their entire mission is about in the flesh and blood.
Right.
So imagine suddenly being in a world where your mission just got turned on its head, and that's not really viable.
Right.
Like, come on, that's got to be massively disruptive.
Sure,
Give
I guess.
Them a break.
Yeah,
Give them a break.
Right, and so the 1-2 things, sure, but then it continues.
It was only 2 things really that had the worst issues in it.
What, Tales and Everfest?
Well, what's the worst issue about Everfest? You say Starvo is the worst issue of Everfest? I don't think Starvo's that bad. Like, yeah, it's broken, but I think it's exactly what it's supposed to be. It's the star of the show.
Right. Yes.
I think it's.
But he used that excuse for Starvo as well.
I mean, I don't think it's that broken. I don't know.
I don't either. But what I'm saying is he's trying to defend. So Team Covenant asked him the hard question of having a new set come out and one of the new heroes being instantly S tier. Yeah. And that's when he went into that whole, the pandemic screwed us up, messed up testing, that kind of stuff.
So and 2 sets, Tales of Aria and Everfest.
Right.
And then a few cards, I guess you could say
Seeds and Chain and Monarch.
Yeah,
so the last 3 sets.
Like, there's gonna be bans. I don't know. People that are purists and say there shouldn't be bans are idiots.
No, I do not say that.
I think 1 ban per set, maybe 2. Come on.
Right, and that's totally fine. Reasonable. That's fine in the cards, but when it's the hero that's the problem, the heroes need to be play tested before a set's released.
Well, I don't know that the heroes are really the problem.
They errata Briar because Briar was the problem.
That was the minor change.
And then they probably would errata Starvo if he wasn't about to hit Living Legend.
I disagree. I disagree that that's how that all goes, but that's fine. I mean, Briar's errata was minor. Every Briar player out there was like, yeah, I don't care. That's fine.
Right.
Like, it was not that big a deal. It was Ball Lightning that was the problem.
Which I wish they didn't errata it. Because errata's just bad.
They didn't errata.
Huh?
They didn't errata it. What are you talking about?
They did errata Briar.
Oh, who cares?
I do.
Like it has no why. It's a token. Who gives a crap? It's not worth anything.
No. It makes it's for a player that is confusing. So when the player comes in and starts playing Briar, and then you have to explain to them, no, they changed the card. It doesn't work that way anymore. And then they're like,
I
oh,
disagree that that's an issue. I didn't even know for the first probably 3 months playing Briar that it created multiple of those tokens.
well, you should have gotten good.
Exactly. That's my point. It's not that impactful. It really isn't. Like,
I think it's
not
just
a huge impact.
Then they needed to send out, when they did the errata, they need to send out the errata cards to shops. If they're not that expensive, they're just tokens. Because we still don't have them. We still don't have the new version of Briar.
They never said they were going to.
They did. They said in future sets we will have the errata version.
Oh, I think that's like history set.
So maybe in the history set we'll have the errata version.
Although, do they? Yeah, they do have a hero in the history set.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
that
makes sense. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't see it as that big a deal. She'll probably LL out before it ever becomes a big issue, honestly.
Right, so you can play your white bordered LL Briar in your Legendary and Beyond format.
Yep, that's right.
Dear Lord.
Well, if you didn't see that coming, you were blind. I knew Living Legend format was a thing the second I heard Living Legend was a thing.
Oh no, I knew it was a thing, but the only way you're going to be able to play her is with a white border.
Oh, I see what you're saying. No, why? Who cares? You know what it does. Like, if you're playing a Living Legend hero, this is the part that I don't get. Do you actually read every card every time you play it? No, you don't. You know what they do. So who cares? It's like a 2-word change.
Right, for us who have been playing it for a long time, for new players hopping into the game that do read every card every time. They have
bigger issues than Briar's 2-word change.
Trust me. All right, sure.
When you're learning this game, that is
when you are learning this game and you pick Briar and you are playing mainly Briar and only Briar.
You probably don't realize how the tokens work in the first place because you're still trying to figure out how Fuse works.
Okay. After you learn Fuse, I don't know. We disagree.
Yeah, I just don't see it as that big of a deal. But if it's a casual game, who cares if you get it wrong? You know?
Sure.
It only matters in the hyper competitive space.
Sure.
Where you will clearly have people tell you you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, that's fine.
So that's what I mean. Like, that's why it doesn't really matter. Like casual games,
okay. So then you
things did we mess up?
Right. Exactly. Sure. Okay, but then you don't have someone telling you you're wrong, and then you show up to your first competitive thing, and then you find out there.
Yeah, that's it. It happened to me. I had someone correct me at ProQuest on a card usage.
I don't know.
It happens. Like, get over yourself.
Sure. Okay.
I don't know. I think expecting everything to be perfect and easy is not. Well, here's a perfect example. 2.0 alone changes the way everyone plays the game now.
How do you mean?
2.0, the rule system, the rules 2.0.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And there's no clear indication on the cards about that.
Sure.
But that just changed all the rules that everyone already knew, even not just new players, but that were already well envisioned within the play patterns of people, and now they have to consider it.
But how many card text would need to be changed for those rules?
You're not changing the card text; you're changing what the card text means, though.
Right. It's not that not that the words on the
more egregious than modifying erratating a card, because that means you're talking about literally tens of thousands of players have to revise their play patterns and what they know works or doesn't work.
Right.
Like that's a lot harder to deal with in my mind than 2 words on Briar, right?
Sure.
That everyone knows, because that's a much bigger change. Like the defense reaction and how that's until it's resolved, it's not a defense card. There's a ton of not massive changes, but changes that have significant impact.
Right, but that's not what I was saying. I was saying that that the Fab Rule 2.0 changes what the cards mean, what the things mean, but it doesn't require you to actually have the wrong text on the card. That's why I don't like erratas, because it's changing the text on the card.
I just see no problem with that. I don't know. I come from Magic. There's like 4,000 erratas going back to the very beginning of the game. They
Right.
changed entire structures of the game.
I'm going to show up to next week's Blitz with Briar, and I'm just going to duct tape a piece of paper with the correct words over it.
That's fine because it's a token. You can do that.
Yeah, exactly.
You're allowed to do whatever you want with a token. You don't even need to have Briar there. That's why it's even less important, because you actually don't have to have the hero in front of you.
Really?
I'm pretty sure that's how it works. I mean, in an official event you do, because you need to, but I'm pretty sure the rules, it's a token.
Right.
You are assumed to have it.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you can play limited if you don't manage to get enough of the right heroes or whatever for the game to go off. You can play without it. So that's why I'm like, I don't think it matters that much on a token. If it was like a played card, like if they took Plunder Run and switched the rules up, that would be a little bit harder to agree. Like to be like, okay, this is fine, because that's something where it's literally has multiple types of interactions. You're going to see it on the play chain a lot.
Yeah.
Blah, 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 blah. That's a lot harder to deal with. And again, I still have no problems with that because I remember Magic doing that. I mean, they have cards.
Just because one person does it doesn't make it okay.
It just makes it normal. That's all I'm saying.
Normal doesn't mean it's okay.
I don't see what's wrong with it though, because clearly Magic survived it and there was no problem, and the players learned to adapt.
Yeah.
And it got bigger.
Yeah.
So what's the big hang up?
It's not the big hang up, it's just a hang up. I'm just saying it's a deal. You're saying it's a big deal.
I'm saying it's not a deal.
Right. I'm just saying you're saying that I'm saying that it's a big deal. I'm just saying it's a deal. Does that make sense?
I guess. I just don't know. I'm not too worried about it. And hopefully there aren't too many more erratas.
Yeah, that's my thing.
Living Legend can continue to serve as a way to get overpowered heroes out of the game, because that is part of the intention, as he clarified in the interview.
Which was, right. He said before.
Many people have said, and he said, look, here's the article. He pointed to it where he's like, here's what I actually said.
Right.
And somehow people keep misinterpreting this.
Yep.
Like, this is the problem with the echo chamber of the, YouTubosphere or whatever. People get this idea in their head about what it's supposed to be, and then they just repeat each other, and no one actually goes and looks at what was actually said.
And it gets
That's
morphed.
why I'm like, let's wait until it's official.
Words get changed.
We don't know.
Yeah,
exactly. It's like, come on, let's wait. Everyone jumps to these conclusions and then piles on each other instead of actually waiting and hearing. And LSS, I will say, their communication is not rockstar and is slow.
Until this announcement was solid.
This was great. But historically, that was a significant real issue that I feel fine calling them on that, because it is part of why these snowball effects of false information happened.
Right.
Because there was no one out there correcting what the world was saying about it.
Right.
So I'm glad they're doing more of this stuff, because they clearly have been the last few months.
That kind of lets us circle back into scaling. Now that so the intention of these history packs, the intention of all of this Fab 2.0 is to help with scaling. In my mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like from removing first edition and unlimited to the history packs to PvE, everything is to get more to commoner. Everything was to get more players playing the game. But it seems like they need to, and it's circling back to where we have this hero that comes out that they say they didn't have enough time to play test or whatever because of COVID.
Yeah, so this is where it gets a little.
When does that stop?
Concerning. Yeah.
When does that? Well, so what if it happens in Uprising?
Honest, we're not going to know. And the reality is this: there's several factors at play. There's the growth. So when you look at any company and its growth, there's several ways to look at it, right?
Right.
First, it's the growth of its penetration into its markets, right? So in Fab's case, that would be like number of countries it's serving, right?
Sure.
So that every time there's a new language, they have to do everything one more time, right? in
Right.
the new language. Because I don't know if you know, but like translating cards or anything that has very specific meaning is not as simple as Google Translate. It's
No, absolutely not.
actually it's very difficult. It's a challenging and time consuming process, right? And if you screw it up, it becomes a significant issue. You know, it has ripple effects that just
Yeah.
cause all sorts of headaches. Um, so so by the fact that they are now in multiple languages, that is a big undertaking of scale. Granted, they're limiting what product it's in, so that helps trim that back a little bit, but it's still a factor to watch and be like, okay, can they do this right? Um, the second area of scaling is the internal. Can you manage your teams in the new way that's required to fit and handle the needs of your customers? And what I mean by that is kind of what you're talking about. If you're going to end up having more sets, let's say they went from 3 sets to 5 or 6 sets a year, right?
Hmm.
So now you have to ramp up the speed at which product development happens because you're going to have more products per year.
Right.
And to do that, you can't just like throw money and people at it, right? You can't just double the size of your team and expect to do double the amount of product. That doesn't work because the interoperability starts creating these conflicts and friction points. And this is,
Right.
again, across any kind of business, this is how this ends up working. So you have to do it in an efficient way. And that typically requires a scale up, restructure, scale up, restructure. And this is that key point for them, I think. Even though they're not putting out more products in the sense of development, like the per year, they are putting out more products across multiple areas. So the lore books, right? The classic battles, right? This
Right.
PvE product, right? They're all a type of scaling, the multi-language thing as I described. So each of these are types of scale that they need to have in place the right management systems and the right product development systems. Otherwise, it will cause issues. Like one way or another, something will happen that will impact some other part of the game, the system, the rules, the whatever, and it will fall apart. Now, sign of good faith, Fab 2.0 rule set.
Hmm.
They explicitly said it's to scale. And if you think about it, it's good because well, I don't want to get too deep into the weeds on the rules. But if you read the rule book before and you read the rule book now, the way it's structured now essentially allows a judge that has gone through tests and understands like core concepts and stuff to interpret any game setup
Right.
because they've now created a framework to interpret every game setup, right? The way the different subclass substructures work for each card type.
Right.
Before this, there were places where it was literally a work of art. You didn't know. There was no clear rule.
Right.
And essentially, so you had to memorize answers to questions. That was the only way to be a competent judge, was to memorize all the different weird scenarios that were not covered by them.
Sure. Which is a lot challenging. A lot more challenging.
It's one, more challenging, and two, not really scalable as the cards stay in play. So every new card introduces more and more of those little edge cases that don't fit within the rules, right?
Sure.
Because that's how it works when your rule system isn't fully fleshed out like that. So they took a step back. They took a good amount of time, because I remember they were talking about this a while ago, the rule switching. They took a good amount of time to rebuild it and think it through kind of at an engineering level, first principles sort of level. And they re-engineered it in a way that would make the system sustainable and scalable with this, judge implementation. Basically made it so it's self-serve as opposed to needing answers from them for everything, which is great. That's a sign that they can do restructuring in order to manage scale in that particular case. Now, granted, I don't know who the head of product is for PvE, right?
Right.
I don't know who the head of product is for each set release. I do know that they announce like who the designers are. I know the designer for head design, I think it was head of product or head of design for Everfest was the same as Crucible.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I know that it's not, I think the other sets are done by someone else, right? And so it's an interesting thing. Supplemental sets have one design mentality and lead, and the other sets have a different one, right? So the fact that that's true is also good for scaling, because that means you have different focuses, different specialties, and hopefully different skill sets that are brought to each thing. Because think about it, designing draftable product is a whole different
You're designing a game within a game.
Yeah, it's a whole different process. So it's good
Mm-hmm.
they have that. Like, it gives me some faith that they know how to do that. The
Yeah,
division
and
of
the
labor
supplemental
that
sets.
allows for scale.
Yeah, and then the supplemental sets really push along Blitz and the classic constructed and the constructed formats.
Yeah. But with a perpetual card set, and I've said this in other videos when I was talking about kind of the black box of cards and all that stuff. If they don't have an architecture in place like they just did with 2.0 rule set,
Mm-hmm.
for card design and product design, then they will start running into issues where a classic constructed product will put in a card that messes up the format of, CC, Blitz, and otherwise. You see what I'm saying? Because the person designing that probably isn't the same person designing the
Oh,
sets.
yep, I see what you
And
mean.
so if you don't have that architectural approach where there's a system and both sides of the house are following that system's rules, and that's, for car design,
Or there's
the way
just
I would do it.
communication between the teams.
Yeah, if it's just like, oh, we'll figure it out or we'll test it, it'll get caught in testing.
Yeah.
No, it won't. It will slip through. Like, this is why you need to have an engineer's mindset for creating the system, which is why I was like, there's a way to derive the black box. This is how you hack computer systems. You backwards engineer it, right? Essentially, by testing the variables and how they interplay and see how they're interrelated, you can determine what the rule set for designing cards is. And it's very clear in the first 3 sets. Now, remember, the first 3 sets were designed after the fact in order to make it easier to learn the game. So they were clearly more simplified.
Right.
I worry they don't have that engineer's kind of rule set or architecture in place, framework, in place for the rest of the game. In which case, we may see some major issues in some products in the future. And
Just an
until
imbalance?
what's that?
Just in card imbalance?
Yeah, it would be, essentially
But
that's where
then
you'll see the issues.
that's where you'll see the bans.
It's true, but if it becomes prolific, then you start getting a dead game.
Sure.
I mean, as much as I say I don't care about bans and erratas because I don't really that much, it has put games on death's door. Other games, not Magic, but other games.
Right.
It does. It can kill games, and clearly some of the community, like Louis, it's very adamant about that. Right. That was his first heartbreak, I think, with Fab. Right. Was when they did the ban and whatever. He was just like, I can't believe it. The seats banned. He lost his mind a little bit on it. He's like, I thought they would never do this.
Right.
And he's like, it was my fault. I put him on a pedestal, and that's unrealistic, which it was.
Yeah.
His fault. But the reality is that it broke his heart to a degree, and you could see it in his videos and the way he responded to the whole situation. And you don't want too much of that because it can hurt the game, and it's going to be every single card adds a multiplier to how difficult it is to keep that straight.
Absolutely.
Because they stay forever. This is
right.
why a cycling version of cards is easier, because you only have to deal with a core set. You don't have a multiplier. Every time you add a card, it gets multiplied by every other card in there.
Right.
Every time you add another card, now it's multiplied by every card plus that one. It's just it snowballs, and you
they're gonna need a larger playtesting group every set,
or a framework.
Sure.
That forces design decisions into specific structures, and that's the only way. I don't know that they have that. I will say he said a few things that make me think he doesn't
have the framework.
Yeah, in place, at least not fully.
Yeah.
And I thought in the first sets when I was doing the card analysis, I said it. I thought there was a way to figure it out. I was like, it has to. If they don't have this, they're insane. They're going to have all sorts of issues going forward. Because like I said, mathematically, it is going to get out of control and impossible to manage. It's just complexity theory. And when this hits a certain level, it will be impossible to do by hand. It needs to be in some sort of framework. So I hope they're designing it. I hope that's part of the scaling solutions that they're looking at. I don't think it's in place yet. He mentioned something about how he thinks the game has gotten too fast. And it's like, that's something that should have been predictable if there was a strong framework in place for rules.
Right.
And I'll be honest, when I saw Everfest cards, I basically threw my card analysis project out the window. I was like, oh, this set breaks everything that I thought I understood. So I need to go back to square one at this point. So Not to say that there isn't something. Just I don't know that it's a fully strict, formulated thing. And
Right.
to be
Or it could
fair,
be Everfest. They were trying new stuff.
true. And to be fair, on the other side of it, and COVID, right? Like, which does have an impact on testing and design and tweaking cards. Because if they go through a process where they like propose a bunch of cards, test the cards out, realize they're too strong, cut them back. If that's the cycle, if that's the iterative design process, which I imagine it is, that's how
Right.
you do design basically, is iteratively like that. Then having disruptions in the ability to play would definitely cause struggles there. Now, if there's a framework in place that is loose, that will they're good enough to do the iterative design and testing, like solid QA, like you were saying, scale the testing team.
Right.
You could do that, and that might actually serve the game better in the long run than my engineering mindset, where it's a locked in system of give and take. Because if you have the locked in system, the one thing you lose is the creativity. You start to become stale, and you see this in Magic. How many cards do the exact same thing as a card from a different set?
A
There's
lot.
tons.
Yeah.
There's tons of them. It's like there's always the one card that, like, I don't know, when it dies does 1 damage to something, right?
Right.
There's
And
always
then
the card that
you
Go
can
ahead.
give those to different classes. Like you can
Oh,
give like
yeah, you
the
can rotate around. There's ways to work it, but that would be part of that framework, is
right.
deciding, like, you could
Who gets
build
what
that
when.
as the rules. Like, if this class gets this, then this class needs the counter that is this, and then that class needs the counter which is that, and that's how you maintain the triangle of balance, or
Yeah,
whatever,
same
right?
functionality, different
Yeah,
class, different
yeah, yeah, yeah.
name, different art.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And you could do that, but again, you will start to feel the staleness. And I think this is what you see in Magic. Magic's fun and has a lot of creative stuff, and obviously they still have bans even to this day. But you do see that there's like a core chunk of every set that is a rotation of a previous set.
Oh yeah, yeah.
They just bring back the same mechanic in a slightly different way,
In a
but
new
it's the
theme.
same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's new theme, same thing. And so you get to this where the gameplay becomes not stale but repetitive, right? It's the same puzzle to solve again and again, just slightly varied. Not a bad thing, and that obviously can work and last. I just think with a game this early, if you've locked down too much, that might not be the best thing. It might be better to break the rules, do more testing, like you said, and allow the game to be a little freeform and discover new territory that's been untouched. Because I've said since the beginning, the design space in this general structure and framework of rules is fantastic. There's so many places to explore that they haven't touched yet.
Oh yeah.
And so if you lock it down with too many rules in the beginning, then you lose that creative touch, which I think would be a shame at this stage. But we'll see. I mean, we'll have to see how it plays out.
Yeah.
But it will affect their scalability, which will affect, and we will see the issues with that pretty quickly, because they have gone global, gone multilingual, gone multi-product.
Yeah.
So all those things are typically pretty big stumbling points for a startup. And very important to get right to survive that stage. And I think some of it they've gotten right, some of it, they're stumbling on, some of it we don't know yet. We'll see. But that'll be what we have to watch, because if they can't pull it off, if we see a lot of issues with cards or whatever over the next year or two, say, it might be a sign that either James White as the CEO doesn't have what it takes to lead the new size of organization, which, again, business theory 101 here. That's often the case. The person who starts the company does not take it into its growth phase. Rarely, we'll say, because typically the person you need that can be scrappy and pivot fast and do things is not good at organizing and structuring the company in a way that it works on its own like a machine. Those are different mindsets.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
It is a big challenge. So hopefully James White or somebody can step in and get him to that point. I don't know.
That also doesn't mean James White needs to leave. He just needs to fill a different position.
Yeah, he'd stay as head designer. Yeah, he'd be like Morrow over at Magic. He'd just be the head designer and continue to work on that, because clearly he loves that part. Like, that's definitely, it seems like that's his passion, and he doesn't really want to be the face or the CEO or any of these other things.
Right, and then you have like Mike over at MetaZoo, who took a step back from game design and completely, pretty much,
is doing the business only stuff,
which does the business stuff.
It's the strategy and the how to structure things around these multi-product launches.
And the gameplay got better. And the gameplay got better. and the merchandise is now everywhere.
so so yeah, I mean it's just different ways to approach the same set of problems.
Exactly.
A tale as old as time.
Yep. But I think that anything else you want to say on
No,
the
I
topic?
rambled long enough,
Okay.
clearly.
So, uh, just a little bit of what we put out this week on our YouTube channel. I opened a Wilderness booster box. It was all right. Got Bigfoot, and then we did our top 5 comics. Make sure you go check that out. Comment your favorite comic that came out this week for a chance to win that giveaway. And then you had our initial Fab 2.0 announcement review, and then we had our market update where you did further data analysis. And then if you are interested in reading and learning about comic book hobby, you can check out the video Murphy and I did on how to start reading and collecting comics. And then this upcoming week, we will have our staples of the top 5 comics on Tuesday, and then the market update on Thursday. I'll probably do some MetaZoo openings because I have a lot on my shelf that I need to open. So,
Yeah, we're getting into a bit of a quiet period, which is fine by me for cards at least.
yeah,
which is good. A little bit of break before we get into all the Pro Tour stuff and what happens there.
I'm super hyped for Pro Tour.
I'm ready. I got the limited package. I didn't realize this. I thought this wouldn't be the case. I thought I'd like Blitz or CC more.
Uh-huh.
The more I've played at our shop, the more I'm like, I really like limited.
It's just fun.
Yeah, I mean, I liked it before, and I used to do my Friday Night Magic, which is a limited format.
Yeah.
But I really like limited. I'm like, I kind of only like. I don't only like limited, but it's like
if you had your choice, you would play limited.
Yeah, I'm like, I would play limited every day. I prefer it. It's awesome. It's a lot of fun. Yep. I never realized that until like last week. I was like, wow, I didn't realize that, and then that's when I got the ticket because I was like, oh yeah, let's just go do that.
Yeah, that's what I think I'm gonna do too.
Cool.
But, cool. Well, until next time, we'll catch you guys later.
Have a good one.